Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We call the Board of Supervisors into session for our 8:45 work session with our county engineer, Russ Weber. Good morning, Russ.
Good morning. We'll start off with the Old Massey Road. Old Massey is finished with the asphalt. Contractor most likely, the only thing remaining is a little bit of paint line that was omitted because the road was a little dirty and wasn't properly cleaned. So they'll come in most likely when Sundown Road is ready to paint and finish that up. So the next one, Sundown Road, River City completed the asphalt, mainline and transitions. They should fine tune the shoulders this week and the paint line should follow hopefully the end of this week, if not the following week. North Bankston bridge replacement. Taylor is planning to start this bridge after the completion of Hickory Valley Bridge. So the Hickory Valley Bridge replacement, subcontractor Ray's Excavating was on site last week to remove the existing bridge. Ray should finish up this week and Taylor should mobilize and to start the bridge construction this week as well. Goose Hill Road paving, prime contractor Progressive Structures started the first of the 3 precast box culverts. Progressive will continue this culvert location this week and probably move on to the next site later this week. Thunder Road paving. Taylor Construction will continue the construction of the final box culvert. This culvert is approximately 60% complete. Habercone Road, subcontractor River City Paving has completed the asphalt last week. They will finish the transitions and intersections this week, along with some granular shoulder work. James and Flanagan, subcontractor Keeter Equipment tentatively start in late August. The 2022 miscellaneous culvert replacement. Keeter again will work on these as the schedule fits between county and private work. Amaran Road bridge replacement. Jim Schrader started the bridge replacement last week. Schrader will continue to work on the bridge this week, starting to drive pile. John Deere build grant project. For the John Deere portion, prime contractor Pierce Tobin continued to work on grading work in preparation for the south roundabout along with storm sewer and conduit work. Crews will finalize this portion, working on base stone in preparation of paving. Portson plans to start paving this week on the south leg of the south roundabout. For the northwest arterial portion, Pierce Tobin continues to work on the Asbury intersection improvements. Pierce Tobin will be working on median crossovers for the JFK Catfish Creek Bridge. Phase 2 and the intersection improvements are anticipated to complete the end of August, August 31st. Phase 3 will start in September, which will be milling and resurfacing of the southbound lane in the northwest arterial. So far, project substantially complete is the old Farley Rockville paving project.
Do you have any questions?
On the John Deere project there, what's the general concept for completing the trail and then the crossing amongst Highway 3? Are you generally familiar with when that is going to occur?
I think the main focus is going to be the south roundabout and then the north roundabout by the south employee entrance. So that'll take up most of this year. So I anticipate the trail will begin next year and the crossover. There might be a chance that the bridge, if time allows, with the contractor might happen later this fall.
Part
The pedestrian crossover
Crossing,
US, yes, of the US
okay.
52 or Highway 3 rather, sorry.
So most likely the trail that runs parallel to John Deere West will
Most likely be next year, yes.
Okay, thank you.
anything else, Jay?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning, Russell. We have an action item here today. It relates to cloth infrastructure, pardon me, and then an additional consultant professional services for some additional land purchases that needed to be negotiated, I think, with not additional land, but maybe more extensive negotiation with John Deere. Are you familiar with the purchase of those right-of-ways and such?
Yes, a little. Let me find that.
But truly, my question is just that, have you reviewed that? It talked a lot in the memo about conversations that had happened with Anthony Barjett. And it's on today for us to sign a resolution. It's an additional $5,000 and it's going to be
Pretty
covered by-
extra.
Yeah,
hours and
extra
stuff.
hours.
Yeah, so that was the extra on behalf of JCG for additional services to complete the 0.4 acre parcel on the John Deere property, just kind of working through the agreements with that. I do have a email confirmation that Anthony approved this extra work via email on June 13th. And the scope of work is just, completing the finalization of that 0.4 acre parcel. I believe it's for the drainage field of the bank.
Right, that's on our agenda today too, up on top. For the final,
Yep. Final plat.
final plat of that.
And then tomorrow, there's a meeting in Piasta and about, it's with DMAT, so it's with Chandra Ravda from ECIA. And it's going to be discussing, we'll talk about this at the end of our meeting today, but annexation of property out there. And then do we do Farms Road? Are we going to do an access road there? So that's a discussion that's going to happen tomorrow from 1 to 3. I'm not inviting you. I just wondered if you were aware.
I am aware. I have it in the schedule for Wednesday though, I believe. So I will.
Yes, Wednesday. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
My mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, Wednesday at 1 to 3 at ECIA. I will
Yes.
be there. Yes.
Excellent.
Yep.
Nothing with the roads projects, but I had talked to you about Sageville. With the school,
Oh, yes.
about
But the turning lane,
I've been looking at it and I don't know if that's even gonna be feasible, but obviously not for this year anyway, so I think in the interim, is there a possibility we could get a sign put up around that corner that'd be prepared to stop? Because the traffic does come to a complete stop in front of the school in the mornings.
okay. Yeah, that would be a.
We have a lot of
feasible
semis
solution,
using that
temporary.
right now.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we can look at placing that around that bend just to kind of
Yeah,
give them additional heads up. I think it would be a
I said
very,
with 52 closed, there is a lot of semis running up that road going through Butte
Correct.
to
right.
Millville and coming back down, and somebody comes flying around that corner with the semi, we could have a major disaster.
Yeah, I'll look for inventory of sign and try to get that implemented. Hopefully, well, school starts this week, but
Yeah.
try to get it as soon as possible.
From
Have you had an opportunity to meet with the school? It seems like that might be.
I've been talking with someone from the school.
School and transportation.
Oh, I know they're concerned about it, but I think that's a kind of thing where we need the decision makers together. So we can not just get the parent input, but what can the school do? What can the district do? And we have a pretty aggressive grounds team that might want to be engaged. That's all I'm asking. We brought those people all together.
They're trying to implement some changes to keep the people off the road. They're gonna start using the back parking lot somehow, but in the interim, like I said, we don't want
Someone coming around that corner and causing
some
a
child
potential.
getting hit or something.
Yeah. As soon as we get that sign placed, I'll follow up with you on that then.
All right, thank you, Russ. Further for us?
Hey, you've met with the principal, Harley?
No, I was speaking with Cindy Mueller.
Sorry, teacher from there.
Well, maybe in general, since we have a little time, Russ, what's your thought on all of these projects getting complete before the snow flies, so to speak.
A lot of asphalt to be had yet. Earlier on, when we had our pre-construction meetings for these projects, we voiced our maybe potential concern about getting this complete before, because, you know, as time continues through the fall, days get shorter, colder temperatures. So that was conveyed to River City and all participating contractors as well. So they're aware of it. I think we will be fine. But they're doing everything they can within their schedules to expedite this. So they known from earlier on the amount of work we had to complete. And so they're working with their subcontractors. I still think positively that it'll be completed and that's our expectation, and they know that. So
Very good. I will pass on the note too. Just came to my mind this weekend, somebody commented on Sundown Road. And the changes that we made there on a very positive light. So they were thankful for the improvements we made at that intersection, or right before the intersection.
right before the hunky, yeah, just we took that down about 7 feet. So we increased the sight distance roughly, 300 feet to almost 500 feet. So definitely a huge improvement there.
Good work.
Yeah, thank you.
First, I got a complaint that you hadn't done a darn thing there. And then my in-laws said, what an amazing improvement that is there too. So,
Yeah, we actually get a
safety
lot of
improvement.
good feedback on that. So
Good.
thank you.
You know what they'll be asking for next then? 35 to 45.
Yeah, probably.
Right, Harley?
You know it. We'll shoot for 55 and settle for 45.
Road closure this weekend for the ride for the kids. We saw that. 30 Earnings is sponsoring the ATV ride. So
Yep.
thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Russ.
Are you planning to stick around for the action items, or having covered that? I don't know what, does he need to stay?
You need to stick
The
around
final
if you didn't
plat for
want
John
to.
Deere?
It's
guess
it's up to you.
Mark.
I'll be available if you want. But if you're comfortable with the information provided,
It probably will be a short meeting.
okay, I'll stick around then. Thanks.
Not much on the agenda. Thank you.
No, I'm not moving. Dead air.
Cut off the beginning of the end.
Editing it.
Take off.
Like we use software, or does Zoom provide stuff like that?
It's software. At the point where I'm like,
Harley, can I ask you a question about the Sageville school? Do you have a problem if I call over to the forum and talk to folks there,
Oh, that's fine.
and also the principal, and just to get some awareness there? I'd like to know formally what they're intending to do.
Oh.
Want to
They don't
be
know
involved
what
if you
No,
know.
I was just talking to Cindy and she had concerns about it.
Yeah.
Brought it up last year and I talked to Anthony about, seeing if we could get a turning lane in there, which pretty tough.
Well, I might do that just so that they know it's at our level too, that we're concerned about it. And
Is it in the city of Sageville?
Right in the town of Sageville.
Who manages the intersection or the lights there? Is it safe? Dubuque, city of Dubuque, or school districts? Or they sub it out?
I don't know.
We don't, so.
I would imagine it's the school
I would
district.
think it's a school district.
Follow through, but yeah,
Morning, Stella.
sounds like it should be the Sageville's lead. Would be my 2 cents, but and the school districts.
School district's not approached me certainly about it. I've heard anything, Jay, about I know because you raised it and I've experienced it personally.
Right, yeah, like I said, it's 9:00. Call the Board of Supervisors into session for the Monday, August 22nd, 2022 board meeting. We'll start the meeting with public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are on the agenda. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Individuals wishing to comment on a public hearing will be given the opportunity during that respective hearing. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board? Seeing no one in chambers, do we have anyone on Zoom, Kevin?
We do not.
Okay. Move on to proclamations. There are no proclamations for approval at this meeting. Going on to the approval of minutes of the meeting of August 15th, 2022. There were corrections made to the minutes regarding resolution numbers. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
Is that what we saw, the corrected minutes? Is that what was in the packet or just clerical?
This is a clerical error. There were a couple numbers for resolution numbers.
I'll make a motion to approve as corrected.
Context, so it's shown as accurate or,
Not shown as accurate.
okay. I just like clarity on what we're approving, so we're not,
Where resolution 22-261 sits, it should actually be 263. So the only portions of the minutes that are being amended are the actual numbers for the resolution.
all right, and these are not showing the accurate ones.
Correct.
Okay,
We will
that's
have
all.
we will have the accurate ones posted ultimately.
Clear now.
And made a motion.
Not to approve these minutes though, right?
As
No,
correct.
as corrected.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as corrected. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. There are no consent items. We have no procurement procedures. Notice of public hearing for amendments to the zoning ordinance. That is for I'm sorry. Well, September 12th. At 9 a.m. and it has 5 zoning cases on it.
I will make a motion to approve the official notice of the intent to inform the public of our zoning changes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the notice of public hearing for September 12th at 9 a.m. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we go to the approval of plats. First is a resolution to approve the final plat of Conley Farm number 3. Tammy.
Morning.
Morning.
The property is owned by James and Tammy Connolly and is located 2.73 miles northeast of the city of Bernard along 12 Mile Road with a total of 5.37 acres surveyed. This property is zoned A1 agricultural. The purpose of the plat is to adjust the lot lines to include the driveway on lot 2 so they can sell lot 1, which has an existing driveway, and to adjust on the lot line to allow the property owners to own the property that is currently being maintained as part of the home lot. This survey creates 3 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 1.04 acres surveyed with a home and it will be sold. Lot 2 is a total of 2.87 acres surveyed with farm buildings and will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 3 is a total of 1.46 acres surveyed and it will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 1 will use an existing residential entrance off of 12 Mile Road, and Lot 2 and Lot 3 will use an existing residential entrance off of 12 Mile Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat. The mortgage holder's acknowledgement is signed and attached, and all of the signatures are current. This plat's been reviewed by myself as plats officer, has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. So this is just a simple where they are changing over the property lines. And as you can see where the main entrance is coming in, the new owner over to the left of your picture there is not wanting to keep that entrance, maintain that road. And they have their own entrance to the home already. So the owner who continually owns the rest of the property is going to keep that piece of that portion. And then the back fence line, they've adjusted a little bit of the property line there as well. Does anybody have any questions?
A motion to approve the final plat.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of Conley Farm number 3. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the final plat of Brame Acres, plat number 2.
Okay, this property is owned by John and Diane Brum and is located adjacent to the city of Dubuque along Cottingham Road with a total of 123.62 acres surveyed. This property is owned R1 rural residential. The purpose of the plat is to separate the home so their son can buy the house and assist in the farming operation. The survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 122.40 acres surveyed with many farm buildings and will remain in current ownership and agricultural use. Lot 2 is a total of 1.22 acres surveyed with a home and it will be sold to their son. Lot 1 will use an existing field entrance off of the north side of Cottingham Road. And Lot 2 will use a 66-foot wide access and utility easement off of Cottingham Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat. There are no mortgages on the property and some of the signatures were over 60 days old and they included the surveyor March 24th of 22, engineer April 12th of 22, county planning and zoning April 19th of 22, county plats officer April 20th of 22, owner's consent April 11th of 22, attorney's opinion April 15th of 22, county assessor April 12th of 22, county health April 2nd of 22, and county treasurer April 7th of 22. This plat's been reviewed by myself as plats officer, has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. So this plat is just simply taking and dividing off some land, and this is a zoned residential property already. So there was no rezoning that would be needed for this. It's pretty.
Who was the last signature on that plat?
The last signature?
Most everybody was over 60 days.
Yeah, the county treasurer. Is that the one you're asking that I meant
What was
last?
the date of that?
That was April 7th.
So why is it here before us at the mid of August?
Because the people just didn't have all their signatures. So this plat had actually gotten started clear back in, let me look here, in first went to the zoning commission April 19th. Okay, so sometimes these plats will sit for 6, 7, 8 months because we're waiting either for banks or we're waiting for signatures from family members or the attorney's opinions. So sometimes we've, if they're sitting longer than a year, then we have to bring them back in front of you.
And so what's the importance of you saying that things are over 60 days old?
And it's always been there. And I guess my conversation with Kevin in the future, I really don't think it needs to be said. I think if it's over a year, I need to be addressing it. But again, this is part of the things that we're going to be looking at and hopefully making some changes. But because this is the way it's been handled, we're continuing to handle it the same until we make those changes. Because I see no importance of you knowing that.
Questions, Jay?
I do not have any questions. I'll make a motion to approve the plat as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the final plat, Brame Acres, plat number 2. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the final plat, John Deere Tractor Works number 3.
And on me, here it is. Got stuck with the other one. Sorry about that. Okay, so the property is owned by John Deere and Company and is located 0.08 miles northwest of the city of Dubuque along South John Deere Road and Prue Road with a total of 141.642 acres surveyed. The property is zoned M2 industrial, heavy industrial. The purpose of this plat is to create a lot for Dubuque Community Credit Union to relocate their septic system that is being displaced by the South John Deere Road project. The survey creates 2 lots. Lot 1 is a total of 141.245 acres surveyed and will remain in current ownership and use. Lot 2 is a total of 0.397 acres surveyed, and it will be for the installation of the septic leach field system for Dubuque Community Credit Union, and is noted on the plat that is a non-buildable lot. Lot 1 will use an existing entrances off of South John Deere Road, and Lot 2 will use an access off of Peru Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat, and there are no mortgages on the property, and some of the signatures, again, were over 60 days old, and they included surveyor, January 6th of 22, engineer, April 12th of 22, county planning and zoning, January of 22, county plats officer, January 18th of 22, attorney's opinion, March 14th of 22, and county assessor, April 12th of 22. This plat's been reviewed as myself as plats officer, has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. This one took a long time getting here just because it was getting John Deere to sign off and then the credit union, and just to have an understanding what that's going on. Obviously, the project's already being done.
A motion to approve the final plat of John Deere Tractor Works number 3.
I will second that.
You have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of John Deere Tractor Works number 3. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we go to resolution to approve the final plat Weber's second edition.
Okay. This property is owned by Lester, the estate of Lester A. Weber, executive Jeanette Talbert, and is located 3.37 miles southeast of the city of Dubuque along Dayton Road with a total of 241.514 acres surveyed. This property is zoned A1 agricultural. The purpose of the plat is to divide the parcels to allow the family to sell the land and finalize the estate. This survey creates 4 lots. Lot 1 is an unbuildable lot and has a total of 2.998 acres surveyed, and it will be transferred to the neighbor David Reese. Lot 2 is a total of 85.159 acres surveyed with the timber, and it will be sold at auction. Lot 3 is a total of 106.317 acres surveyed with a home and buildings and cropland, and it will be sold at auction. Lot 4 has a total of 47.440 acres surveyed, and it will be sold to a family member, Francis and Vicki Weber. Lot 1 will use an existing field entrance through a neighboring farm off of Mitchell Mill Road, and Lot 2 will use an existing entrance off of Mitchell Mill Road. Lot 3 is an existing field entrance off of Dayton Road, and Lot 4 will use an existing residential entrance off of Dayton Road. There were no additions or corrections required for the plat. There are no mortgages on the property, and all the signatures are current. This plat's been reviewed by myself as plats officer, has all the required signatures. I respectfully recommend approval. So as you can see, each one of these lots have and meet the current guideline that we're working off of. And lot 1 was a fence line potential dispute, and the neighbor, who is a farmer adjacent, has quite a bit of cropland, or quite a bit of land. There's been an agreement signed that he is taking over that piece because there was they always felt it was his property. So they're just getting that corrected. And it's an unbuildable lot, so it would never be able to be built on. If he wanted to use that as a building line, he would have to survey that into another parcel. Anybody have any questions?
Motion to approve the final plat Weber second edition.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the final plat Weber's second edition. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. We'll move on to action items. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
We have a resolution to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks.
Russell, is this your new person? Have lots of applicants? Was it a good search?
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, it was a good search. There was about 35 applicants.
That's wonderful to hear. Motion to approve the hiring.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the necessary contract update memorandum number 2 with both Infrastructure and Environment LLC for additional consultant professional engineering services for the Iowa DOT project number HDP C031 parentheses 110-6B-31 and STBG-SWAP-C031 parentheses 112-FG31 grade and pavement improvements to Northwest Arterial D10 South John Deere Road build project. That was in the amount of $5,000, not mistaken. Extra fees. Questions for Russ or?
Discussed this in our work session this morning.
Questions? I have no further questions. Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to approve the additional costs for the consultant fees. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution. To approve the RCTP agreement with the city of Cheryl for the South Mound Road project, and that is in the amount of $25,000 for the paving project.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the RCTP agreement with the city of Cheryl for the South Mound Road project in the amount of $25,000. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to authorize the chair to sign the Iowa Secretary of State HAVA accessibility grant agreement.
Good morning. This is the auditor. This is a $1,000 grant that the Secretary of State and the Election Assistance Commission through HAVA is allowing each county to take up to $1,000 to look at their polling locations and their accessibility and work with local councils or local groups to make them more accessible. I would point out this is an endeavor that we undertook in June at the primaries, and it has since spread obviously across the state. So a lot of the counties are looking to take care of the low-hanging fruit, and that's sort of what our perspective was. We can set up the polling locations according to what our cards say, but until those with lived disabilities can help us say, well, move this chair a little bit to the right or lower this table a couple inches, we don't know any better. So this $1,000 will allow us to work with the Dubuque Disabilities Council and get teams out at each polling location this fall.
That's terrific.
I might just make I guess it's a question or a comment to you, Kevin, but there was a letter to the editor this weekend from a gentleman who'd been called maybe to jury duty, but he spent time here in the courthouse.
I read that letter.
And we probably need to do kind of that same kind of walkabout here, maybe just to look to see.
Yeah. When I read that, the first thing I did was send myself an email, note to self, to speak with facilities, because something as easy as making two doors and a bathroom swing a little bit easier or open a little bit easier is a no-brainer. So I would expect that we can actually communicate to that guy. I've reached out for his contact information, so once it's corrected, we can let them know.
Make a motion to approve the resolution on the HAVA accessibility grant agreement.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the resolution regarding the Iowa State Secretary of State HAVA accessibility grant agreement. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, we have a resolution to authorize the chair to sign the VNA contract addendum number 1 regarding the appointment of the VNA as the interim executive director of the Dubuque County Health Department.
So, good morning. This is the auditor again. I'll start. I attended the Board of Health meeting last week, and this contract addendum was presented to the Board of Health. It has been reviewed by myself and the county attorney. And basically what it sets up is that the Visiting Nurses Association and Stacy Killian will be acting as the interim health director role until February 17th, 2023, or until we no longer need it. So that could be sooner or later. The cost for that is $38,100. And there was only one little issue we found with the addendum, and that was regarding claims and making sure that we had some segregation of duties. That's since been corrected. So I recommend approval for this.
Yeah.
No, there's going to be another contract that comes forward to, there's negotiations with the city of Dubuque to take on the information piece of also that director's work. So basically, those functions are now being taken up by the VNA, thankfully, but then there's some things that the VNA doesn't do, but the city of Dubuque information officer will be doing on our behalf. Discussed at that same health board meeting, and we'll be coming back to the health board again. I'm pleased to see this. I think it's wonderful that our partners are stepping forward to be helpful.
And we do have Stacy Killian and Sandra Larson on Zoom if you have any questions.
Okay, anything?
I don't have any questions. I thought it was also a very good creative solution to a interim temporary problem. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution related to the VNA contract.
Second,
I have a motion and a second to approve the VNA contract. Favor signified by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for Holy Family Catholic Schools. Want to address Ed?
Ed Raber. So this is the first contract that we're presenting on the purchase of service swap program. This contract will essentially be the same for the competitive purchase of service applications that you recently approved as well. So a lot of work has gone into collecting information or feedback from a lot of our partners, both internally, certainly Stella and Kevin and Megan and the county attorney have weighed in on this, and as well as our outside auditors, our insurance carrier, and that's probably about it. But this is the format and the look of most all of our contracts that we're planning to bring forward to you as quickly as possible. Not onesies like this, but this is where we are, and we'll be working to bring as many of these forward to get them underway and under contract as we can. So if you have any questions about that, I realize in my memo I have a small error in our insurance carrier, but the name there. But if anyone has any questions, be happy to answer those or address those.
Okay,
Did you have any discussion, or do you envision that all the contracts will be very similar related to their individual terms, if not identical?
The base part of the contract will be very similar. The nuts and bolts of it are the statement of work, where we kind of outline what the project is, what we're going to be reimbursing for what activities, when applicable, some time range for that. There are a couple projects that the intended purpose is to span several years, so that'll be laid out. And based on their unique situation, the sort of insurance coverage that we'll be asking for the county to be declared on. So that will be different from different kinds of projects.
Do you have any conversation with some of the recipients or internally related to the Section 3 compensation? So you're on quarterly, and then your window is pretty tight of 15 days right after the quarter. If I read that right, if you don't hit that window, you go to another quarter, which is 6 months.
That is right.
Is that
We'll,
intentional? It seems a little challenging for our recipients that if they.
It will be something that that we will be just simply working with them to help them meet that as a target for so that after the end of the quarter, we'll be pinging all of them to send us their pay requests. So right now, we think that we can help them manage it. This is also, this is what our contract is going to say, and this is where our targets are. We're trying to help people, right? I think we're trying to help the people in the county. So if ends up being something that requires some little bit of give or take on that, we'll just work with those. I think our intention is to help the people that we've awarded projects to.
I appreciate that commentary, but if you read the
Right.
language, and we are an organization
Right.
of bigger units, that could be a trouble spot in the actual, it's the only thing I thought
Right.
this might not work very well, as opposed to either monthly or.
I think we can specify in some cases. On this particular one, we've checked the quarterly box. There is also, we could include in some particular cases for particular projects, monthly.
I guess I'm not suggesting that, nor
Right.
I appreciate you throwing out ideas, because I'm kind of peppering at that. But one, I do like standard agreements, and this was one, and this is the first time I've seen this. I don't believe, unless the other supervisors got a review of it previously until it hit our packet. That's the only part I thought that might just not work real well. It's not the end of the world. It is, it is money that is on a grant basis. And so it's not necessarily earned from their operations. So I'm sure they're very thankful of it. But if they incur those expenses, miss the 15-day window, you could have a 6-month gap according to the contract. And I hear what you're saying, that you might be nice and forgiving, but did maybe wording related to semi-monthly or semi-quarterly or every, something less harsh. And it's not super harsh. I mean, I get it, but it's quarter ends, 15 days, you miss that window. What this reads is you wait till the next quarter.
Almost sounds like an auditor's office wrote it. That was our recommendation, was that we go quarterly and within 15 days. Part of that is so that we have standardization through each quarter. But a focus is also to make sure that at year end and on that 6/30 that we have those claims in by 7/15 so we can accrue them back. So this was a recommendation of our office and the external auditors.
I also believe this is going to be the primary job scope of the new employee, isn't it? To make sure that there's communication. So I think that how you're going to turn in your receipts is going to be handled by one contact person, which will streamline things here tremendously. So there's one voice, one contact person, and someone with an up-to-date spreadsheet tracking all this information. So if someone misses a window,
If somebody misses a window, our office will work with them as well. But we need to have something standard in place, and to that end, having the same language in every contract in regards to section 3.2 is important. But we will always go out of our way to work with an entity, especially if there's cash flow issues on their end.
I was going to say was that I think that having the standard contract, and I agree with the work that you've done. I think the contract's good, statement of work's good. I still intend to vote against this because I thought the award was too high. And so now here we are at that final moment for the final approval. But having that second staff person, I think, or the staff person in charge of this is going to help tremendously. And I think that will probably relieve some of the concerns we have right now because we have so many people involved in the discussions and the preparation. So that's a great thing. My question was about if we followed the checklist. Did they complete a checklist that we had talked about in our discussion about how you get to a contract? This organization followed the checklist program?
Yes.
Okay. So we did all of our stuff with the budgeting department. So we're going to handle that with everybody that way as well, right? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads, so very good.
What is that checklist? I have not seen that. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That was,
Have I seen that?
Stella has emailed that out.
Maybe it wasn't like a checklist. Maybe it was.
It's a self-assessment that we've asked the applicants or the awardees to complete. In the future, we'll probably just incorporate that as part of an application, but we're doing it on the back end now. And it is something that asks them some questions about more specifically about their status of having received federal funds in the past, state funds. Have you been audited? Were there any audit findings? Are you in some non-compliance with some federal or state partner? Some things like that.
So I had not seen that either, Supervisor Wickham.
Yeah,
had
I don't
not seen
recall
that.
seeing that. So
I
if you
would
could,
like to see that,
yeah, maybe
as well
forward that
as I
follow-up.
believe that there's a spreadsheet going around that says who's going to be in the swap funding and who's going to stand alone. I've not ever seen that either. I think those things may be going to the chair because maybe there's more conversation. I don't know, but I'd like to see those documents as well.
I believe nearly all of the projects are going to the swap except for the bigger ones.
There's a notation. We'll get you something that reflects what we're currently thinking is our current thinking is
Right.
on that.
And so I guess I'd like to say, because we now have confusion about who got what and who didn't get what, this is the full board obviously has to have it all. So when things are going to the chair, because it relates to something putting together an agenda or agenda review or something, you know, we're not in that conversation. And I think you're hearing quite firmly today we wish to be.
Going good. So I appreciate you putting all this stuff together. And normally I don't need to necessarily, get in your way. The scope of work, was that shared with the recipient? In this case, it's Holy Family, but is the intent to share the scope of the work, which is probably the main thing they're interested in? The language is probably going to be standard and will be, thrust upon them from us, which is acceptable.
Yes.
But the scope of work, you work with each one of them, say, hey, is this the scope of the work? Is this accurate? Does this reflect what your application is and our understanding of that as well? Is that how the process is?
Yes.
Perfect. So there won't be any necessarily surprises on their end related to the scope.
They're aware of this. They're aware of this agenda item. They've seen this. So
I appreciate that. And I can tell by your smile that you've gone through that multiple times, but I also appreciate this is the first time we've been receiving this. So I know there's been work going on behind the scenes to get all this ready. And so we appreciate all that. And we may just need another work session to kind of bring all of us up to speed of all the changes and all the good work that you've done related to, who we're anticipating going through different programs being swap funds versus the federal side of it. But those are my only comments, is that, possibly and all of the auditor's comment related to working with the community and the recipients. So I feel comfortable related to the terms. And I also agree strongly that that they should be, short of the scope of work and other items, they should be standardized agreements.
I think we should be doing any more direct supervision of the communication that's transpiring. I'm not engaged in conversations with award recipients. That's going to the team, and we're not being, at least I'm not being copied in on anything. I don't know what's happening. It's dark over with what's going on with our award recipients. I don't want to be in their way, but maybe if we do have some work sessions scheduled so that we're brought up to speed.
Yeah, I think next week, certainly if we could have, here's our vision. I'm glad this one, hit our agenda because I like to keep moving. But if you could give us some sort of direction next week in a short work session of, here's when we think all the contracts will be done. Here's the next batch, issues you're facing, or just your plan of delivery to the community. Because as you probably can appreciate, many of the recipients will call us and I say they're in the works. Have you been speaking with, Ed Raber and Stella and the auditor's office? And many times they'll say yes. And so I said, good, that's what you need to be doing.
It's only been through about this last week that we will schedule that. Now, keep in mind, next week, I think, is an evening meeting. So if you're
Next week or two, whatever.
Week or two.
Yeah.
It actually, as we sort of got to a point with this where everybody had kind of signed off on doing this, you had to get in to see, well, how long is this going to take to do each one of these? So there's about 60 of them or something in that neighborhood. So it takes a little bit to do each one of these. So
How's the
you're welcome.
search going? I saw we have the posting up for the budget position. The posting is up for the budget position. So we're looking for the person who's going to be, I mean, that's the other thing. This is all underway and we're, you know, hoping to put the person in place to do the counting and receiving and checking. So I hope that moves quickly.
I think one of the things that we're looking at is having this process refined and in place and ready to go. So when that person joins, they have framework and process to follow. If it sounds like some of the issues the board wants to talk about during the work session are more communication related or making sure that everybody's on the same page related. Is that an indication that this contract we can start using as a framework to create other contracts? Or are we going to delay a couple weeks while we have?
Well, one other item too, and so maybe you can jump to the last one. It says sample on this contract, at least in my copy does. And so.
Yes, excellent. That is from, that is the look that was given to us by our insurance carrier of this particular declaration that an awardee may choose if they want. This is just this is what it looks like, and so it says that of what this declaration that they may decide that we're not requiring, that they may be able to do. So this particular page there, that's the way that it looks in the material provided to us that we've gone back and forth with O'Connor and English.
Is the sample just through the last heading?
That page right there, preservation of government immunities endorsement.
And so that's designed to be a sample.
Yes.
Okay. And so maybe that could be called out. So that was one of my questions, whether it was a sample for the whole contract. It just adds confusion.
Sure. The way I was reading it, there's a opening paragraph there, but other people, as they look at that, may think differently about that. And so that's the kind of feedback that we're looking for. So I'm happy to make that more clear if we can.
Yeah, the page separation or something, or having a description of what the sample implies to the sample and refers to the preservation of government immunities endorsement, which sounds riveting.
Yes,
that's a mouthful, by the way.
I think I looked at that when they provided that, and we've gone back and forth with them a couple times. And that's the way they provided it, and that's the way I left it. So
I think we're close from all the other stuff. I'd certainly have just questions, but I'm sure you're going to give me some good answers about how did you come up with all the insurance stuff? Those numbers. Was it best practice? Did you review other contracts?
That was delivered to us through Stella. I can't thank Stella enough for all the stuff that she's done on this. That is Schedule A from our insurance carrier. That is the request of O'Connor and English. So we did not make up any of that. Additionally, you'll note in there, if the auditor would scroll up just a wee bit.
Maybe we can stay on insurance unless you're going to stay on
right there.
Insurance.
Right. On this, we've inserted coverage required, yes, no. And one of the things that we're doing with our insurance carrier is on each of these to review. This is the entirety of this particular schedule that O'Connor and English delivered to us, which they did not invent either, I don't believe. But not every project will require all of those endorsements or these requirements from us. And so we left them all in there at their suggestion, and we just check if that's one that they will require for this project or not require. And so we are actually working with Sue Miller from O'Connor and English. I just say it enough times, O'Connor and English, on each one of these to have someone from there say, yes, based on what this project is, you should be requiring this. She's indicated that's just a service that they provide to their clients like us. And so we're hoping to get into a rhythm of relative ease where they can provide the guidance to the county of the kind of insurance coverage that we should be asking our awardees to have.
I would think,
and I actually misspoke that. I'm going to say not just the insurance coverage, but the declarations that cover the county in their insurance.
Have you received any comment back from the recipients related to the insurance coverage requirements. That's kind of what just kind of
Right.
tests this.
Right.
We all love insurance companies, but they live in an insurance world and they sell insurance.
Right.
So they tend to
It's
wanna have a lot of that
on,
going on.
particularly, that was my bias as well, Supervisor. And as we got into it, actually, they actually backed off and said, no, you don't need this. You don't need this. Think about it this way. So as we went through here,
I guess what I'm trying to hedge off is we put this contract out there with these insurance requirements and then the recipients go, what?
right.
So that's kind
I-
of, have we
right.
tested amongst a few of them?
I have tested it in conversations with O'Connor and English. And I think that we will get to a spot where we are not asking for more coverage just because we can. So I'm very sensitive to the issue that you bring up. In the purchase of service program that we did this last spring, we had this very same thing, probably a little bit more loose. We tried to do that, and virtually everybody did their absolute best to comply with that. I think we internally talked about that as just a dry run to see if we can like get this out there, and people responded. There was very little question or hesitation by folks. I think we're doing a better job now of helping them know this is what we want. And this is how we can work with that, and working much more closely in this particular case, moving forward with our own insurance carrier as, I'm not sure I want to say a team member, but like part of that process to help that client awardee and their insurance cover their insurance carrier, so that we're able to do that. But yes, very sensitive
A lot
to.
of newer stuff in here though, right? So
This is, well-
I don't remember the last contract having this many liability items. unless
There were just about that many.
you had the liquor liability.
Yep, there was a liquor, it's almost always checked no. We're waiting for the event that we
Remember
check
that one.
yes, but
All right.
it's part of the schedule.
All right, thank you.
I would like to thank you, Ed and Kevin and Stella, for all the work that you've put into getting this far and vetting it.
And Megan,
And Megan, I don't know who it's all about, but
it was Megan.
we're right at the threshold of starting to get the ARP funds out finally, and it's been a long process. I definitely thank you and all the staff that have worked on this. On a table this or just?
We have a lot of moving parts, or maybe let me rephrase that. For sure, the sample piece, I think, adds some confusion we've commented on here. So I would be more comfortable tabling it and making some of those changes. But if my colleagues and or those changing these documents think they can capture some of our conversations here and make the modifications, I'm okay moving forward today. My colleagues are. But there seems like a bunch of items we had questions on, and we're kind of coming to conclusion. As far as changes, the only hard changes I would be recommending is on that sample piece. Rest of the items, you've convinced me, you've calmed me, educated me.
I'm fine with the document that's presented. I think that it's been through all of our chains and all of our best folks. I mean, our people that are doing the work, it's a good work product. I'm comfortable with it. It's been reviewed by the county attorney, auditors team, budget. I think your questions have been great, Jay. And I think they bring up probably for all of us, but I don't have a need to table.
We're off and running. I will make a motion to approve the resolution and the associated agreements related to our swap purchase of service items, specifically this one for Holy Family Catholic Schools.
I will second. Have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of service swap contract for Holy Family Catholic Schools. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Carries. For communications, thank you again, Ed, Stella, Kevin, your team. Communications, a letter of non-compliance regarding Street Farms. I believe the issue has been taken care of, so it's just a matter of receive and file.
Actually, I'd like to have I understand we don't get to take any action, but I don't understand this at all. So this would be on my list of things we need to have a work session about. I don't understand. We had a verified contamination of some kind, but I don't know anything more about it. So
My understanding, we don't get these from the DNR often. My understanding was that there was not a verified contamination, that there was the potential for contamination, and that potential was a ditch or an area that could lead to a watershed area that was corrected and inspected by the Department of Natural Resources, and that's what this communication was.
maybe that's what I would be looking for is some greater information than partial sentences filled in the blank with a bunch of
Yeah,
acronyms. I have no idea what this is.
You have what we have. I think there was one other document that was that gave a little bit of an outline, but my understanding is that the documents presented in the communication section do show that the issue was corrected. That being said, we throw it on communications so the supervisors are aware. If you should so choose to want to have discussion about it in the future, just let us know and we can add it to an agenda.
I certainly appreciate being aware, maybe just if it's a little more work, but just context of kind of why it came to us, if the DNR does this as standard practice or if it's state code, just to help educate me, or if you want to push that back on us, I'd be happy.
I would push it back on you guys to
Okay,
reach
I'd be
out.
happy to, I can try to. do
We
that
get
same
the
thing.
communications, and what we generally tend to do is determine if it meets a threshold for needing communications.
Okay.
Since this was the first time, I think even Mary has seen something like this come through.
So this is the kind of thing I would anticipate would go to Eric Schmeckel, so that I mean, if only we're getting this and Eric's not aware of it, or I intend to follow this a little bit more just because I need to understand it. It's potentially cross ends with what we're trying to do with watershed. If we just say, I'll receive and file, because it's communication from the DNR, well,
Yeah, I think
let's see how that impacts.
my guess would be that Eric is probably aware of it. And that Brian Preston is probably aware of it. But again, it is entirely up to the three of you. If you would like to pursue that, by all means, have at it. We simply put it on as the communication to make everybody aware, and then no different than our communications for urban renewal amendments. They come with a public hearing notice, and you could at that point then decide to attend that public hearing if you wanted. So I think this sort of falls the same way. There are contact numbers on here, and I think the name of the person who performed the follow-up inspection is in here as well. So
It's it's basically letting us know that they are out doing their job, that they noticed this potential hazard. Farmers' attention, it's taken care of. This is let us know that the potential is taken care of.
If we table it for 2 weeks and we ask Eric to comment or Brian to comment, they can just be on Zoom and give us a bigger picture, right?
there's no tabling it. You receive and file without taking action. So the board typically makes a motion to receive and file,
I understand
but the
that.
communication section is receive and file automatically. So the motion you take each week is redundant in nature. So you wouldn't table it. We could set up a work session and you could talk to them in 2 weeks, but this item is on the communication section.
If I
for this
table it,
agenda.
it's gonna come back. It's gonna show up on an agenda and someone's gonna have to do something to get prepared for the questions we have, right?
I would not resubmit this, no. As a communications item, it has been communicated to the board. Unless I was instructed to place it on another agenda, I would not automatically put it on another agenda.
Both my colleagues would want it on the agenda for a work session with Eric.
I mean, I would, don't want to put the cart before the horse, but maybe a call to Eric or a call to Brian Preston or DNR to see who knows what prior to
Putting it on the
getting
agenda.
out there and figuring out what we want to talk about if we don't even really know who we want to talk to or what needs to be talked about.
Right, and what you're seeing here is the fact that I can't call Jay outside this meeting and say, hey, what do you know about this? Or Harley, I mean, it's here just as a communication, which is first opening point, but it's coming from the DNR. It's kind of important. So does anyone want to get back together and talk about this with a 10-minute work session? I understand we're gonna receive and file today to move it through and get
Right,
the audit. and all
I guess
that.
I can get with Brian and Eric and see if either one of them know about, can give us some more information on it, whether, Zoom workshop or whatever.
All I'm trying to do is not have 3 supervisors call the same 2 people who are busy, right? So if you have questions and you have questions, could someone just put this on as an agenda item for a 10-minute work session?
Absolutely. Or I could, somebody could email Eric and Eric could email all 3 supervisors. And then you'd all have the same information at the same time. We're stacking up a lot of work sessions for that first meeting in September. So I'm trying to be judicious with what we
Try that,
put on the agenda.
Kevin, just reach out to Eric, ask him if he can give us some background on this. He can email all 3 of us.
Ed's gonna do that? Right, thank you. I mean, we do have a leadership watershed program. And I think that this is not something we should just be like, oh, that's just okay. I'm sure it's okay, it's done. Not trying to, make a big deal out of whomever made the report or whatever, but I do think it's good for us to be aware.
Want to receive and file? Or do we just want to?
I was gonna save my list of tweaks and changes to the procedures of the board meetings until January, but you can continue to make a motion to receive and file. If that's what we're familiar with thus far.
Motion to receive and file.
Second,
Communicate.
A motion, a second to receive and file the Street Farms letter. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have open vacancies for information only.
I understand you're gonna send around the applications that we have currently for Board of Health.
Correct. We would be looking to put a agenda item on for
The application is open till the 9th.
Correct.
In the paperwork, the application for Board of Health is open till September 9th.
And then the 12th of September would be the date that we would have to appoint the 2 vacancies to the Board of Health. And we'll be sending out the applications that we received thus far.
We're gonna do that the 12th, you said?
If the application is open till the 9th, then I would imagine
Oh, okay, yeah.
we don't want to appoint until that period closes.
I didn't know the application was open that long.
I just read it again this morning. That's what it says.
And so we'll have our office, we'll send out an update with the current applicants we have, and then we'll send out a final one prior to that board meeting. And
Okay.
any questions on boards and commissions can be directed to Roseanne in our office. She's now overseeing all the boards and commissions.
Thank you.
So will you be sending those out? I asked for them last week just to see, I asked last week to see what were the applications to date, and you sent me back a memo that said, that's not going to happen. You're sending it to all of us. So
I sent you an email back saying that's not going to happen because my staff member was out of the office.
and will I receive them, Kevin, or am I
Yes,
waiting until the 12th?
No, we're going to send out the current list we have, and then we will send out the final list once we get past the
Excellent.
9th.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was confused.
There are no personnel requisitions for approval at this meeting. We'll move to the public comment section. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are of concern to that person and which are not agenda items. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Please be aware that the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and Iowa Code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board? Yes, sir.
Dave Schneider, Schneider Land Surveying, 906 First Street North, Farley, Iowa. This kind of goes back to kind of just me trying to
Is
get
the
a grip.
microphone green? I'm having trouble here, Mr. Schneider.
Yes, it is green. Basically, I'm here just kind of, number one, I guess, to apologize for getting a little upset over that rezoning issue related to the Weber property. Obviously, in my mind, things didn't go the way I expected. But anyway, that's here or there. I guess I need to basically just make the point that when you guys are reviewing these things, you need to understand these ordinances. I'm sitting here preparing these things. I submit them with my knowledge of what the ordinances are. So many times I hear the comments, well, what does our ordinance say coming off this board? And I think it's your job to know those ordinances. And I don't think now is the time to explain it all to you. I sure will if I got more than 3 minutes, probably 3 hours. But understanding what I do as a surveyor, I'm state licensed. My job is as a licensed land surveyor, and I'm also licensed as a landscape architect. I do site development work in the city of Dubuque and other towns, as well as the boundary work, subdivision work, that sort of thing. I am the middleman. I am the one that gives these people the schedules that they need to follow based on what I receive from the county. I'm given a checklist of everybody that needs to sign off on these plats and basically submittal deadlines. I am given a list of basically when all the meetings are and when I have to submit by those dates. With that knowledge, I have to go to my clients and say, I need attorney's opinions by this dates. I need to have this thing through the city because you're within a 2-mile jurisdiction. That's exactly why that Brame one was held up. They were in a 2-mile jurisdiction of the city of Dubuque, and they were contesting that with the city of Dubuque for months, trying to get them. We submitted it to Van Milligan. He denied it. We had to take it to the city council. He denied it. I'm scheduling all this stuff, trying to keep them moving. Basically got to the point where we were still trying to get on the city council meeting, and thank God our governor basically derailed the city's ability to require these pre-annexation agreements on all these properties within 2 miles. So thank God. So we do not have to run all these plats. They can sign off on them in-house. They can look at them as subdivisions, but they do not have to sign a pre-annexation agreement, basically stating the fact that they now need to sign this agreement stating that they will not contest the city's ability to annex their property. So that's why that one was held up for as long as it was. And in my case, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I have to deal with to get these people to this point. Most of my clients do not have a clue what they're getting into when they step into this process. It's my job to educate them. It's my job to take the project that they presented me with and the request for how long is this going to take, and number one, educate them on why what they're telling me is not going to work, how I need to modify these jobs to meet your ordinance. And that's why I show up here over and over and over, is basically because I'm the one that's telling them what it's going to take to meet your ordinance. And that's what, and I need you guys to understand what those ordinances are. You know, this whole battle about what the size of a parcel is on an A2. I mean, when you know, I've been through, this would be our third zoning administrator. It keeps changing. We need to understand and know the ordinance and not allow the elected officials and the people in these offices to set sizes on things that are different than the ordinance. I mean, that's really what this is coming out of. I was asked by Anna O'Shea to help her with this A2 ordinance back when it was created. There was nothing in there that dictated a size on that. You know, and again, we need to go through all this stuff. You need to understand it, because it just feels like we're getting beat up here for no reason because of a lack of knowledge, not only on the side of the people that are showing up to contest these things, but basically the elected officials not understanding what their own ordinances are and knowing what is and is not allowed in this county. I don't bring these things to them, to the zoning office to meet these schedules that I'm given unless I feel that they meet your ordinance, and I can sit up there and defend it, because I tell my clients all the time, if we can't get this, there's no sense me spending the time on the survey if we don't get the rezoning approved. or this thing's pretty much meets the ordinance, there's nothing they can really say, we'll submit the plat and the rezoning at the same time.
We are at 5 minutes, just to be aware.
So, and that's, so anyway, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I feel like I'm educating my clients day in and day out. If you have questions about the ordinance, I'd be happy to explain it. It's just frustrating on my part because that feels like we're up here trying to defend something like criminals and we're not. My job is health, safety and welfare through my landscape architecture license and my surveying license. Through basically making sure that my clients have an accurate boundary, that I sort out any title issues, that I schedule the proper people that need to present or have stuff presented to me so I can meet your deadlines. I need you guys to keep the process pushing because in a case like that, or the thing that really upset me the most on the public notice being, I guess, tabled was the fact that I can't present it unless we have the public's comment. I need that to happen. We can table this thing after the information is initially out there, and I tell this to Tammy all the time. She's like, well, I think we're going to table this, or if there's this issues. I said, I need the people to show up to give me their information so I know what the issues even are. So anyway, I would appreciate your help on this, but we're not out here to cause you guys problems. I'm out here basically to buffer my clients from their own lack of knowledge of what the ordinances are, what the platting requirements are, what the bank is requiring, what the attorneys are requiring, and then from, basically everybody that's trying to shut them down because they're telling them they don't meet the ordinance when they do. So I struggle with it, and that's where my frustration came in. So,
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
For comments.
Anyone online that would wish to address the board, Kevin?
Nobody indicating online.
Did have a message. Did you see that one? Wayne Kennecker regarding the schools. He's working with the district. They're making changes to how the bus and car traffic flows and lights are operated and maintained by the school. Pageville there. Boards, commissions and supervisors updates. And do you want to start?
Sure, I guess I have, some of these are just questions because I'm losing track of kind of who's on first. I'll start with the airport. There was a meeting at the Julian Inn at 7 a.m. on, well, I wasn't there, so I think it was Thursday at 7 a.m. at the Julian. Were you there? Was anybody from this Board of Supervisors on there?
Not there
What about you, Kevin? You're on.
or invited. So
I was not there and I was not invited as well. I don't believe that it was a meeting on behalf of the Air Task Force Commission.
You think what?
I do not believe that it was on behalf, the meeting was on behalf of the Air Task Force Commission.
Okay.
There have been a number of different groups popping up to try to address the airport needs. So this is not one that I was aware of at 7 a.m.
Right, so Greater Dubuque Development, I sit on that executive board ex officio, and they are working certainly on looking at ways to address the airport commercial service ending. But I'm only on that. And I don't know, I think can you just explain what you're doing, Kevin?
The Air Task Force Commission is, I believe, is doing what everybody else is doing. We're sitting around trying to figure out what the next steps are for the airport, whether or not there are other carriers interested. But the discussions have been trying to figure out if we're going to work with the state or try to work with the federal government. There really hasn't been an appetite from either of those entities to change legislation that would help Dubuque retain air service. That's a legislation that's a piece of legislation that's been in place for quite some time, but the list keeps dwindling as far as airports that are covered. I know that there is a talk of a couple of I don't know the correct term, but a couple of airlines that are more budget friendly, making dedicated trips out of Dubuque to areas in Florida or a town in Florida, but I'm not certain where the conversations are there. Again, our board is made up of community stakeholders and county stakeholder. And so those conversations, Rick Dickinson is in them. So I would imagine he's probably the best person to, one of the better people to talk to as far as what the city's efforts are and what the group's efforts are.
Who should we talk to?
Rick Dickinson. That's who I would imagine. He seems to be one of the key components who are at all of these meetings.
That one meeting, I don't think it was last Thursday. I don't remember what day it was, but it was a discussion regarding the airport. It was Todd Dalsing and Molly and Rick. Discussion on which way to go, what to do.
I had a private conversation with Molly and Todd. They're anticipating perhaps filing an ARPA request for some funding. I don't know if each of us has had that conversation or what the status, is that the one you're talking about? I've not had
No,
any.
this was separate from that one. I'd had that meeting with Todd and Molly also.
That was brought up in a couple of Air Task Force Commission meetings, their desire to approach the county for ARPA funds. When asked if I would participate in that group, I of course said I would not, given certain conflicts being on the county side. But that is a discussion that they've had. One of the questions I asked is what the funds would be used for and what would be expected from the county in subsequent years. My understanding, the amount of money to get a carrier like American or United to the table is probably not even in the 7-figure range. It's probably greater than 7 figures just to get them to the table again. And then that would be something that we'd be looking at having to supplement each year. The pilot shortage isn't going away anytime soon. And unfortunately the 50 passenger planes that American is using for that fleet is going away very soon. So there's sort of a convergence of a couple of unfortunate events happening all at once that I think, most people who probably follow that industry were aware that we were getting there. And I think COVID just sped it up. The pandemic sped it up much more quickly.
In the meeting that we had, there was discussion regarding ultra low cost carriers, destination flights to Florida or Phoenix or something, but obviously the marketing ability for us to market Dubuque at those locations is making it destination Dubuque with the casinos, riverboats, all the things that we have, the hiking trails, Lions of Spain, Heritage Trail, to get people to come here and visit our area from those locations.
Yeah, I think the understanding of some members of our group is that for the recreational traveler, there will probably be some solutions down the road. Somebody that'll get an airline that'll get somebody somewhere recreationally. For the business traveler and for the purposes of recruiting business and recruiting employees and recruiting people to move here, that's a fix that's going to take a little more of an effort. And unfortunately, money talks typically in those arenas.
This is a solution to get us to another commercial carrier for the business. At least we can try to get people here for the Field of Dreams. I mean, we have a lot of amenities here that we could draw people into.
One of the larger concerns is the flight to Chicago was fantastic because number one, a lot of people here have offices in Chicago. A lot of people have contacts there, and it's a hub. And you're in the center of the country, and you can pretty much get anywhere in about 3 hours. So
I was wondering what the chamber is doing. Jay, you're the representative at the chamber. Is there any other information that you have from chamber perspective?
I would prefer the agenda discuss the items. So I'm not comfortable with just free-forming discussion. The reason we have public meetings is to engage the public, inform the public, to make sure the public's fully aware of dialogues we're going to have. And so if I'm very interested in talking about the airport, I think we just put it on the agenda, even bullet items. So I know we're modifying things. So my preference for this section would be if it's supervisor updates, that's different than dialogue, discussion, and opinions, which we're getting into. All good, but I just, if we want to talk about the airport, let's put it on the agenda.
Actually, that's a good idea. I like that idea.
Yeah, just list, it
Underneath
doesn't have
section
to be
12.
forever. It could be for 3 minutes, you could be 5 minutes and.
Underneath section 12, I guess, for where it says boards, commissions and supervisors updates, if there are specific updates or specific items that a supervisor would like to talk about, that's going to get a little more in depth than just an update from your own commission or your own board, we could put them on there as bullet
Right.
points.
But what I see this is normally in a typical situation, I would pick up the phone, which I do frequently with the auditor, and just say, hey, what's going on? Bring me up to speed. I cannot do that with either of you. And so that's why I bring that as a first one. I have several others, but I don't know. And so we're certainly not working as a team. We're not working even we're not aware of what each other is doing. And that is a disappointment that we can't have time to simply just bring each other up to date. Because it makes us inefficient, it makes us less effective as leaders in the community if I don't know what you're doing, Jay.
Up to date is different than asking questions and having discussions. So certainly you presenting what you're updating me with and me presenting updating is much different than a dialogue discussion about, what do you know, what's your opinions, what's your thoughts, and then comments related to the topic. I just, if we want dialogue on a topic, put it on the agenda. That's all I'm requesting. And therefore the public knows, and therefore the public who may be interested in that might show up and we might involve them. And that's the intent of a public meeting. That's all my request is. I'm happy to hear and receive any updates you have, but I just don't think we should be having discussions. Yeah, if we had a 5-person board, yes, you certainly, like the city council, you can talk, but I think it's a gray area, and I'm happy that we all respect the Iowa code related to sunshine laws, and our discussions and deliberations are in public.
But what I asked was for an update about the airport from you sitting as a board member on the chamber. That's what I asked.
We have a meeting this week on the agenda. We have a meeting this week. Chamber board is meeting this week. And I think you've also requested from the chamber the notes from the meetings, which may or may not have come from them. They're not my notes. I'm an ex officio. So all I'm saying is put it on the agenda. If you have a discussion on it, I'm very open to discussing it, things that are on the agenda. I just think we owe that to the public.
Anything further?
Yeah, we'll see if any of these fit. The Field of Dreams also has a board relating to our $5 million gift. We're on the board of something for Field of Dreams. And I think that you're that person, right?
Yes.
Can you give me an update as to what's happening there?
It's This Is Iowa Ballpark Board. It's for the construction of the new stadium. Received the Destination Iowa grant for $12.5 million. We have an application still pending with the state for another grant. We should hear by the end of the month on that. And top members are working with our private entities for naming rights, stuff like that.
And this is not a public board, right?
Right.
Do you know if you're going to be on that? Are you on that board as chair, or are you going to be on that board on an ongoing basis? Do you know?
They selected me to be on the board. I don't know how long to be there.
Putting a list of work sessions, put that on there. So
Yeah,
Rick would
again,
like to
I mean,
request
if
that.
you have a list prepared, if there are lists prepared in advance, let me know and I'll put them on the agenda. That would solve a lot of our problems.
That
and
one I would like
discussions.
to have a separate work session on for at least 15 minutes. I was unaware that there's things going on.
Field of Dreams
so
board.
Updates have some.
This is
have some
Iowa
value.
baseball or this is baseball?
Iowa Ballpark.
All good stuff.
I was hoping for an update regarding the Department of Human Services rental space.
I haven't had anything recently, waiting for Chris to give me or get Lori the cost of the remodel at the Bluff Street location.
So that should very definitely be a work session.
I would ask that the Board of Supervisors individually each put their work session requests in emails to myself and Mary Hobble, please.
Come on. Can handle 30 items at once.
So
Your
on Wednesday of this week, I think this
Paper
is an
trail.
update. There isn't time for a work session because it's Wednesday. This is the meeting with the folks from Piasta and DMATs. Meeting to talk about and thankfully our engineer will be there. So that's some discussion about Cottingham Road extension, as well as possible annexation by the city of Piasta for some property there. I attended their meeting probably 2 years ago and was on their long-range planning commission stakeholder with the city of Piasta. So that is something we will need to get further update on, but I do think you should be aware that I'm doing that. I think we all got the email from Chandra some weeks ago asking if any of us wanted to participate in that. But I will be attending that from 1 to 3, and it's become that there's limited resources, and what position will the county take? Clearly, I'm there listening. I'm not able to tell them what a county position is.
I did not get that meeting invite.
So the meeting invitation was from Chandra several weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago, asking which one of us would do this. And I think he then sent a note back and said that I had been on that committee previously. It had been in a prior conversation. So it was scheduled with my schedule in mind, and then also it's been rescheduled. So at this point, it's going to happen Wednesday. I don't think that it's a problem that either of you wish to attend. Just have to be conscious of, quorum.
I'm not
It's not a
on,
public meeting.
I guess I'm not on the DMAT's board.
Harley, I did just send you that email. It was sent to all 3 supervisors on July 29th at 9:51 a.m. It does have the wrong date. It does reference.
I got the concept and all that, but it wasn't a meeting invite.
Oh, it's not a meeting invite as in the form that you're thinking of. The paragraph
Oh,
actually
okay.
talks about not an official click to accept meeting invite.
All right, sorry.
Works.
If either of you wishes also to attend, I believe it's informational. But if you wish to attend, I would coordinate with Chandra.
Yep.
I will be leaving here to go to Delaware County to Manchester to listen to the public hearing for the pipeline. Navigator is holding a public hearing there. And I did yesterday have 2 citizens approach me at Worthington about the notices they're getting. They live in Dubuque, but the pipeline is in Delaware County. So actually, the gentleman insisted that this Board of Supervisors get up to date, be aware, and take a position with regard to the pipeline, the carbon pipeline. So that's my update to you. I will go do this public hearing. I understand Supervisor Potoff, you've attended some meetings as well. Just as a learning, the Iowa Sierra Club has some good information on their website as well. So I don't know that we probably need to have a work session about this, but this is an update. I'm not asking for your opinions about it. I'm simply making you aware of other things that are happening and what, that citizens are asking us about this. We got an update on Sageville this morning, DHS. And then I wanted to ask the issue about the zoning ordinances. The auditor and I have talked about having the ordinance that impacts the rezoning attached and included in our packet for rezoning. I attend those meetings typically on Zoom, but that might be helpful so we see the square of what it is that the rezoning relates to the ordinance itself. So sometimes the zoning board reads the zoning ordinance aloud at the meeting. Sometimes they do not. it's inconsistent with how they procedurally do things at the zoning. Guess that's an update from what I've been doing in zoning. I think.
Okay. I attended the workplace training Monday. Very good training. Very good training.
Ellen, do you know
Yes,
if that
it
will be
was-
by Zoom? Do you have a Zoom date? Asked about that.
Currently, there is a Zoom probably going to be set up on the last day. The trainer has asked for as many people to come in person as possible because it is an interactive training. So we are encouraging everybody to attend in person if possible, but we will offer a Zoom potentially at the end.
Yeah, very interactive, very good training. That was good.
Department heads were kind of talking about that at the department head meeting on Tuesday as well. It was a topic on the department head meeting on Tuesday. Some people were reflecting that they had attended. It was maybe not as robust as some of them had attended previously, but as department heads, I guess that makes sense. That there might be a different level of training for department heads from other sources as compared to this. Dave Reniker made that comment, I guess.
That meeting regarding the airport was Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. Attended the congressional staff visit Wednesday night. Thursday night had a lot of great conversations with staff members, congressional staff members. That's probably about it for the past week. It's just been an extremely busy last 2 weeks.
Could we get a work session on facilities? Is Chris Soder, if we've got some conclusion about the the judge reached out to me. Another judge
HVAC.
asking us to, yeah, on the
Should be
HVAC,
done now, right?
right? It was when you were away and she was also going to be away, but to get together, she wants us to experience her chambers. And I think we probably owe her a personal response.
Yeah, I can give a quick update from there is the Shive Hattery has completed their assessment, their review. They presented to Chris and I their findings. We asked for some clarification on some of the items they had in their document, and those were prepared and returned to us. Chris is out of the office this week, but again, submit work session requests via email, and I will make sure it goes on the agenda, and we will have Shive Hattery here to present that document and talk about what the future may hold in September.
When will they be here?
At some meeting in September, at your pleasure or my pleasure or whoever, however it works best.
Well, it's really important because one of the problems is there's I've asked, I can't hear you. I've said lots of things to that effect today, because that piece of equipment in the back is I think working to its capability.
Yeah, and we can have Shive Hattery come sooner than later, until this is not a project that the county is going to take lightly. This is not a project that is going to be inexpensive. This is not a project that is not going to be non-intrusive, should we decide to move forward. So this is something that definitely is going to take months of planning and execution. So we do have time, but understanding that the first step to be taken is talking to Shive Hattery. We can set up a work session as soon as possible. I'm loath to say that we're going to set these all up for September 6th, because that's just not going to happen.
Right.
Please don't.
If they attend, they were going to charge us additional funding. Do you remember that in their proposal, that if they come to our work session, there's an additional cost?
Shive Hattery is not charging us an additional fee to come and speak to us. I've talked to the person who prepared the report, who would be with us in the room. So not quite sure what that was, but there will be no charge for them sitting in the room answering questions on the report that they prepared.
Well, I remember that differently. I also just wanted to give an update to everyone. I did have a veteran ask me about veterans parking, designated veterans parking in the parking lot behind our building. They wanted to have there be a slot or two that veterans could park in, not disabled veterans, but veterans. So, and I've asked Randy Renison to work on that with Chris.
That's another, there are probably 5 more things, but that is another thing that we are working on internally. You know, overarching theme here is that if you're not getting the individual emails saying what the status of the update is or what's happening, I can assure you there are hundreds of emails flying behind the scene, and we're simply not copying you guys on everything out of courtesy of not destroying your inboxes. But that has been discussed. It is that the group has been broadened from just Randy and Chris. I know that Tracy in HR and I have been included in those emails, and if we can make it happen, we certainly will.
Right, and so again, to the point of doing this today, I believe this is a courtesy to you both to kind of relate what's going on in an update forum. We've determined that that isn't what we want to use the space for. I certainly don't think that these are worthy of bullet points for work sessions. They just simply are the running of the operation, so to speak. And how do you do this if you don't have opportunity to talk to each other?
We're talking about the agenda. I would kind of beg to differ that it wouldn't be very difficult to have a bullet item talking about county operations or courthouse operations. And that would allow the public to understand that we are going to engage in operations related to the county's functioning. And that could be at a broad level. Having another bullet item talking about airport, which is not something we do every day, I think would be helpful to engage the public.
And
So that's all I'm requesting is if the supervisor has an item, and to be a courtesy for each one of us and or staff and or the public, so we know what we're talking about when we arrive here. Versus we've just had a random discussion of like 9 items that I was unaware we were gonna have and no one else knew we were gonna have. That's
Well,
not
I had
that's
put it
not how
on-
public wants to, that's not,
I had
in my
put it
opinion,
on
good government.
because we don't get a chance to talk.
I appreciate your intent. So yeah, no, I think it's
And
good. And my request would be to
Ideas
go a little
are
deeper.
good. We can add to that.
Yeah,
That's
I think
fine.
there's a balance to be struck
Yeah.
between what everybody is saying here on the board.
I'm
I
happy
think
to
we
share
can-
and discuss. I'd love to.
There will need to be some latitude, and I'm certain Supervisor Wickham will allow some latitude, but there also needs to be some structure to his point as far as putting on some more broad-based bullet points. Some of these things, though, with regards to the operation of the courthouse, I mean, my intention is overseeing facilities and maintenance is not to report every decision and everything that we do. So if somebody requests some parking spots and it's brought to me by one of the supervisors, we will address it and move forward, but I would not expect that I'm going to continually update on all of those requests. There's just too many, so.
And that's fine if a person approaches you as the auditor. But when a person approaches me as a supervisor, I think that that's an important thing to bring to you and to you. That's someone interacting with the supervisor, asking us to try to do something. So I want you to be aware that that's a concern that that person has, and I've asked folks to work on that here. So if it's not what other people want to do with regard to veterans parking, then we can make a work session and make it a bigger deal. I'm just letting you know.
At least if somebody says something to me, I can say, yeah, I know they're working on it. Anything further? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
We'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.